Greetings, CATDC. It's almost a year to the day since we sent out our first communication to the community about the pandemic and how we were adjusting. And what a year it has been. Educators getting vaccinated and more students returning to face learning means that some of you are able to exhale at least a bit, but we're far from reaching any real sense of equilibrium. So today we have with us Clarke Weatherspoon in his second year as middle school head at the San Francisco Friends School. Thanks, Clarke, for joining us. And Clarke has been part of our Leadership Fellows program in the past, and he has served for 4 years running as a member of the dynamic facilitation team that leads Teaching Foundations, one of our signature programs that's designed to support the growth and success of all teachers, but particularly those in their early years at an independent school. And Clarke is also on the board of NorCal POSIS. So again, thank you for coming, Clarke. I know you're super busy. How are you holding up these days?
I think all things considered, doing pretty well. I think engaging with the practice of attending to one step at a time and one day at a time has been really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you bring mindfulness into your work and practice. So I imagine that is helping with the one step, one moment, sometimes at a time.
Yeah, that's been, that I would say has been one of the lifesavers, so taking time to be in silence, taking time to reflect, taking time to let go has been really critical. One of the things about schools in general is we're so attentive to rhythm and ritual and schedule, and those things have really been taken away, and that's been really jarring. And then also just still being a new division head, this is the end of my second year, but I'm still very much new to my institution, and only spent 4 or 5 months in person with my colleagues before the pandemic started. So there's still a lot to learn. So so really taking time to let go has been really critical.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And how about the San Francisco Friends School community? Where are you all with your own return to face learning and adapting, creating new rituals kind of as you go?
Yeah, we are a K-8 Quaker school, and our kindergartners or our K-4 came back in October, and our 5-8 started coming back in November, and we are now back in our building 4 days a week with Wednesday as sort of a safe harbor in the middle. And we're learning a lot. We're having to change. I think, like a lot of schools, we've been through 4 or 5 different schedule iterations. We still have quarantine after vacations. The San Francisco Department of Public Health has modified their their instructions over time, so we've had to be reactive and responsive to that. So learning a lot about what the pandemic requires of us every day is where we are, and that's deeply educational. It's deeply challenging, and it's also it teaches you a lot about who you are and the families you work with and the people you work with. So we're excited to be back, and as you mentioned, more adults getting vaccinated has certainly allowed some anxiety and some fear to come down, for sure.
Mm-hmm. That's great to hear. And this connects probably to things that we talked about earlier, but what has been most helpful or inspiring to you as you travel your own steep learning curve this year?
I think talking to other leaders in other institutions has been really useful. Talking to the head of my own school, Mike Hannis, has been really helpful to me. I think we have in independent schools, we can traffic in perfectionism, and one of the, sort of big challenges of the pandemic is that perfection is just that much further away. And so talking to other leaders about where they're working, where they're struggling, um, you know, making my own mistakes, big and small, and having to, face those and deal with, the criticism or the discouragement that can come from that has all been, deeply educational. And also, one of the things that the pandemic has, done and charged us with is attending to the life or death sort of nature of where we've been for the last year, and to, you know, continue to engage the biggest, broadest possible picture while we can get caught up in like really small things. That's been really powerful. And not to say that it's been easy, but certainly talking to other leaders, and then also, some of the teachers that I work with, really looking at how they've dealt with it. I've been able to draw a lot of inspiration from them as well.
That's great. Yeah, sharing our stories is so critical, and being in community and learning in community, yeah, has been essential. So looking ahead, if you can, to summer, you're in the thick of it, but looking ahead to summer and teaching foundations, which will be in August, what's one thing you've learned this year that you want to bring specifically to that program, would you say?
I think teaching foundations is really special because you're working with teachers who are in the beginnings of their career, right? So not necessarily at the start, but in the beginnings. And we've talked about this a lot, but I think creating effective containers for people and helping them find systems of support for themselves, but also helping them build systems of support internally, and then also helping them build practices that are actually mobile, right? So one of the things we faced in the pandemic is working through multiple modalities, right? And I think when we were just in the classroom, it was really easy to have classroom rituals, and now we've had to have classroom rituals or Zoom rituals or home rituals. And then now, like, as people are coming back to school, it's also on the yard, or it's on the field, or it's, there's all these different places. So working with new teachers to think about what are the rituals and, cultural practices you want to have in your classroom, and for the learners you're working with, and for yourself, that are going to keep it fresh and dynamic. And then to also really encourage people to identify mentors who can support them. Those are sort of the big things, because one of the things we're seeing is that with the pandemic, the emphasis on content in a lot of disciplines has had to go away, right? So if you can't just focus on your content, what are the meaningful elements of the educational experience that you're creating for kids? And so habits of mind, rituals, and support, those are really the big things.
Yeah, and I can't express enough enthusiasm for the relationship that you build within your team with Lori Coben, Shoba Farrell, and Leslie Powell, and then also what you bring in
And
terms of
Malika.
building, and Malika, right, Malika Carter too, and just what you bring in terms of building a cohort that then
That's right.
can serve as community mentors for each other throughout the school year. What would you say that new teachers need right now at our schools? What do they need most right now in this time?
I think new teachers right now need support, and they need people who are looking out for them. They need people to let them know that it's okay to be lost, and that it's okay if the kids are not feeling it, or if parents are not feeling it. I think this has been a really, really hard year for a lot of people, and for new teachers, connecting with other teachers, connecting with leaders, identifying that perfection is not possible, and really thinking about creating some consistency of care and
Mm.
consistency of instruction for your students, and then really looking to, um, you know, find that person or those people who they work with who are going to really nurture and support them, and to maybe create a little more distance between people who are not doing that.
Mhm. Wise advice. Thank you so much. Thank you again, Clarke, for taking this time with us today and for your engagement with the CATDC, for leading teaching fellows over the summer, or teaching foundations, being part of leadership fellows and leading teaching foundations. And to all of you at CATDC, congratulations for making it through this pandemic year. It's been heavy, hard, filled with challenge, and also so many opportunities for growth and community. So thank you for engaging with us at CATDC, and we hope to see you at an upcoming program soon. Thanks again, Clarke.